Hello and welcome to this week's Different League show, sponsored by Betfred. So, yet more controversy involving VAR last night. This time, sendings off. We'll discuss that. And also we'll discuss the terrible online abuse that's going on at the moment. You can talk about racism, sexism, throw in homophobia as well. We live in 2021 and it is disgraceful to think that this is still going on. Delighted to say Darren Ambrose is alongside Mark and myself. Darren, how are you?
Good to see you. Yeah, very good, thank you. Good to be here.
You enjoying talk?
Really
it's
am,
a good listen?
It's really enjoyable, and we're the banter's flowing more and more now. We're getting to know each other. We can bounce off one another, and there's a lot of talking points, which always helps in our show.
Okay, well, let's go to this week's first talking point, shall we? And it is the online abuse, racism, sexism, as I say, homophobia as well. Chelsea women's manager Emma Hayes has been linked with the AFC Wimbledon job. Wimbledon haven't actually come out and said they've expressed an interest, but there has been online abuse there. On top of that, a lot of racist abuse as well. Social media companies seem to be doing nothing, Mark. It seems obvious in one way what to do, but perhaps it's not quite as straightforward, is it?
No, I definitely think that first of all, the people that actually post the online abuse are most to blame for all of this. But I do feel that the social media companies need to take more responsibility. I've seen some people say that, you're going to have to maybe give up some identification to open up an account and you can't be anonymous. I think if you're a company like Facebook and you've got that amount of security details of sort of everyone in the world, essentially, that would become an absolute nightmare for a company to look after that amount of details. I don't think it's possible. that goes beyond what any government would be able to do. I think that they need to build in more artificial intelligence. These are multi-billion-pound companies that could quite easily, but could, I certainly think, do more to kind of stop the abuse reaching the attending target. And I also think that there's a case to be said that they are publishers, that they claim that they're not and they're just a platform. I would sort of beg to differ on that. I think that it's becoming sort of closer to, you wouldn't be allowed to put that in a newspaper, for instance. I don't see why a social media company is allowed to sort of host those kind of opinions.
Fran Kirby, Chelsea women's footballer, was vocal on social media this week. She tweeted this, and I'll read it out as it's written as well, because it's a very powerful message. Every social media account should have to be approved by some type of ID. Now, people should be held accountable for what they're saying and how they act. Absolutely spot on, Darren. How do you see it? Because we're all for zero tolerance, but is there a problem with kind of privacy and giving away too much information? Do you feel?
Perhaps so, yeah. Mark could be right there, but I do feel that some kind of verification needs to be put into place to get these accounts open. And accountability is the other word that is used a lot. No one should have to deal with online abuse. No one should have to deal with racist abuse for losing a football game. That's incredible. And in the last week, I think Marcus Rashford, along with 4 or 5 others, have come out and spoken publicly about it. These are just the ones we've heard about. We've spoken a lot on our show with Troy Townsend of Kick It Out, and there's a lot more that goes on other than the ones that come out publicly. It shouldn't be happening. There's a question, do you boycott social media? I don't see why. You shouldn't have to do that.
The players you're talking about.
The players, yeah.
They shouldn't have to come off it.
I don't think you should have to come off it. I understand why, but if you are coming off it in terms of Twitter, if every footballer come off it, it will add up to maybe 0.5% of the population that's on Twitter. So is it going to make a massive difference? Probably not. These social media companies need to do more. They really do. If they can, for instance, if they can stop and ban Donald Trump, the then president of the United States, they can do this. They can stop this happening. And like Mark said, artificial intelligence may come into play and stop it at source. But it's outrageous that we're in 2021 and people still have to deal with this.
Yeah, I'm 100% behind you on that. They almost choose to see who they can ban. I don't see why they can't. Oliver Dowden, the Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, has met with footballers to combat this online. You talk about accountability, and that's obviously ultimately what it's about. Is it about then just finding out how to do it? Because Mark makes a good point, but I actually personally wouldn't mind, or it wouldn't bother me if they had the passport details of me, just to make sure that this type of thing doesn't go on elsewhere. But you are opening up a can of worms in that way as well. So what would your solution be here?
Again, I would first and foremost go to verification. I'm the same as you. I wouldn't mind my details. I think if you look, for instance, if you were to become a guarantor of a house or someone, you need to give 3 months worth of utility bills, your passport details, driver's license, whatever. Maybe some kind of form of identification. You can't just sit behind a social media platform and expect to get away with whatever you want to say. No one in the world, and we must repeat, should have to deal with this kind of abuse. Not only footballers, it's not only footballers. We get it in the media. Everyone gets targeted one way or another, and it's people more often than not that just hide behind a platform, behind an image of their dog or Pac-Man or something that they just hide behind it, and it's not on, and it needs to change.
Yeah, I was just about to say as well, these people, if you saw them in the street, wouldn't even look at you in the eye, would they?
Absolutely.
They'd walk away. They can't be allowed to do it. The problem is social media companies won't do it. There's too much money involved. Government have to get involved, and I know Oliver Dowden is trying to do that and bringing in legislation for it. Final one on this one. What about the players? Do you feel they should actually, until legislation is in place, take these people to court or take legal action in any way?
It's first and foremost down to them as an individual. They may not want to highlight the fact that it's happened to them, but if they feel they should or they would want to, absolutely. I think there was a 24-hour blackout. I think we was probably all involved in this, that come off social media in terms of footballers, and it hasn't helped. I understand why it happened. I don't think footballers should have to do that again. But yeah, if caught, and I think the individual that abused Marcus Rashford, I think it was Ivan Toney, was arrested, and they found out. So absolutely, if that's what it takes, take them to court and have a punishment that fits that crime.
Yeah, accountability, and the sooner legislation is brought in by the government, the better, because these companies are just not going to do it. Okay, let's talk back to football then. VAR strikes back. Fresh from yesterday's fixtures, we had David Luiz at Arsenal and Jan Bednarek at Southampton sent off. And boy, Southampton didn't need that, did they? What do you think? What do you think about the decisions and how VAR is getting involved in this?
Firstly, I hate VAR. I think a lot of people would say the same thing, albeit it's not actually VAR, it's the rules and it's other people's opinions. It's all you're dealing with at Stockley Park. It's another guy's opinion on the situation that happened. But last night, I understand it's the rules, but they're saying that you can make an attempt at the ball and clean the guy out and just give away a penalty and get a yellow card, or really try hard not to make an effort at the ball, accidentally clip him, or I think in the David Luiz case, I think he actually clipped Luiz and then went down. And then get a red card, and it's a double whammy. I think it's outrageous. And the Southampton one, I think Mike Dean couldn't wait to give the red card and kind of bring it back onto the Mike Dean world as it is. And
don't get me going on Mike Dean.
No.
I don't know him, but I don't want to either.
No, I think you as well, and I don't know what Mark thinks. You've got to question Martial as well. I think being 6-0 up, you're not even a penalty taker, so you're not gaining an advantage for yourself. I think he's gone down very, very easily there, and the guy's got a red card for it, and made matters a lot worse for Southampton.
Mark, how do you see it on these specific incidents, but also VAR generally? I mean, we're a couple of years in now.
I was always against VAR right from the start, just because I could see this happening where it wouldn't solve all of the issues, and it would instead create new ones. And there aren't enough sort of Thierry Henry handball, Diego Maradona handballs, the Oxlade-Chamberlain, Kieran Gibbs when they sent off the wrong player. There aren't enough of those major mishaps that happen they're so rare. That's why you remember them. And we've changed the entire game to make sure that doesn't happen again. And so rightly now, you won't get a handball like that is ever allowed. But you're just getting hundreds over a season, hundreds of moments that just leave you unsatisfied. Last night, quite interesting. I mean, the Southampton one I thought was really harsh. The David Luiz one, when I first saw it, and even the first couple of replays, I just assumed that was a red card. And it was only sort of when I watched it, maybe at the half-time interval again, when I thought, hold on, maybe there isn't as much contact as what I thought. And sometimes...
Is that not what VAR can do then?
Yeah, but I don't know if your brain sort of tricks yourself sometimes. And, as Darren was saying, it's just one other person's opinion. It's not... It can't be scientific, can it? And, as my boss said to me, he doesn't like VAR either, and he said to me, like, you want forensic analysis at the Old Bailey, not Old Trafford, and I think that's probably right.
I'm in the minority here. I was for VAR. I said it would take 3 years to iron out. I think you can make that 5. I totally agree, though, in terms of getting too involved. Should just be like goal line technology, offside, and offside should be just the feet. Let's just make it simple. Even if your shoulder or your hip is a little bit further forward, let's just go it that way. And then the only other time it gets involved is if the referee's not sure himself and he wants to go over and have a look, because you know what it's like, happens so quickly. You can come at me for that if you want. No VAR?
Well, it will more than likely take 3 years to get ironed out, absolutely. I think the problem you have now is the officiating seems to have got a lot worse. Now, the referees, the assistant referees were never as bad as they seem to be now. But I think that stems down to VAR as well, because they know they've got a get out of jail free card that they can have a look. And I mean, the offside one, when it's 5-6 yards offside and they don't put their flag up till they score, the forwards jogging, thinking, come on, just put your flag up, has to put it in. Everyone can see that. So on them decisions there, you've just got to... I think the officiating's getting worse because of VAR's been brought in.
I think as well, they're now punishing every contact, and not every contact has to be a foul. But when you sort of really slow it down, you're like, well,
it looks worse, doesn't it? In slow motion.
He's like, but he hasn't. There can be contacts. I mean, there's been some sort of penalties given that you wouldn't have normally given because they were just too soft to be penalties. But they were unwritten laws in sort of the game that everybody just accepted. But you now have to go by the exact letter, and it's not for the better.
The problem is, that David Luiz, if we go back to him, if he'd have got sent off a lot more if VAR was back in the day as well, because defenders, especially the old school defenders, they've been brought up similar to David Luiz, where you do the sneaky drag back in the box that the ref won't see, and you've got away with it for that long, you can't change your game. And I mean, 18 months, 6 penalties given away and 3 red cards. I think last night in particular, the reputation preceded David Luiz.
Okay, it may take 10 years then to iron out. We'll see where we are in a decade. Final one here on the week's talking points. Got to talk about the January transfer window as well. It wasn't one to remember, really, was it?
No, I think it goes to show just where clubs are at, really. And you've also, I think the ones at the bottom, some of them may have given up to some extent and think it's not worth throwing 20 million at this. We'll take our medicine and try to come back stronger, because there's already a gap developing between that bottom 3. And I think even the bigger teams, there's probably 2 reasons. One, they need a big squad because of all the amount of games, and 2, they just haven't got the money that they had sort of this time last year.
Liverpool brought in 2 players at centre-back. Obviously, Matip out for the season as well as the other 2. They've strengthened, but how much have they strengthened? Have they strengthened enough to go on and win the title in the Champions League?
In terms of full squad when fit, yeah, they probably haven't strengthened a lot. I think this transfer window has been an absolute winner for Ben Davies, who come out of nowhere and by all accounts is a fantastic defender. I've not seen much of him, but the people that have seen him play say he's a very assured defender. So
it's a big step up, though, isn't it?
It's a big step up for a title contending team and the current champions and trying to regain the title, to come in and kind of have that pressure on you that Liverpool needed a centre half, so they've brought in these 2, and if it doesn't work, will the blame be put on them a little bit? perhaps, but they are definitely in the title, and I'm really hoping, particularly for Ben Davies, that he can come in and really make that step up, because it will show that the quality in the lower leagues is really good as well.
Yeah, it'd be great for the EFL, so fingers crossed he does do well. Okay, let's move on now to the different league Q&A section. You ready for this?
I am.
2 questions.
Yeah.
We give the viewer a chance to win a £25 Amazon voucher for your question to be read out. Jim Moore, first up. Who's the most natural player you shared a pitch with or against?
Oh, wow. That's a...
Obviously, in the media, it's Mark Langdon.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Or yourself,
well,
of course.
I'll set up a second.
Yeah, look, there's a lot. I played with a lot of fantastic players. Alan Shearer obviously springs to mind, the all-time record goal scorer. Patrick Kluivert, towards the end of his career at Newcastle, was fantastic. I could name 20, 25 players that could probably... I'd change my mind every time.
Give us a half a dozen. Or 3 or 4 more.
Kieran Dyer, I think, if it wasn't for injuries, he would have had probably 100 England caps. I really do feel that. Danny Murphy was a fantastic player I played with. I played with Edgar Davids, actually, at Crystal Palace. Now, when I shared the pitch with him, I wouldn't say he was the most naturally gifted that I shared, but just to share the pitch with the legend, which was Edgar Davids. I got to have an honourable mention to Darren Bent, one of my closest friends. Yeah, I've got to get involved in case he's listening. But it might surprise you a little bit, may not for some others, but probably going to say Wilf Zaha is the most naturally gifted, because he was young when I played with him. I think he come into the team at 17 at Crystal Palace. And then we had the game away at Man United where he really showed what he could do on the world stage, as it were. And he's really gone on and had a fantastic career. And probably Crystal Palace fans won't want me saying this, probably deserves another shot at the big time, as it were. But some of the things he could do in training, the skills he had, and it's just incredible.
Didn't want to mark him.
No, and when we was at Crystal Palace, the team we had, Sean Derry's, Clint Hills, Paddy McCarthy's, Danny Butterfields of the world, didn't want to be shown up even in training. And so a few times there was a few hefty challenges going in, should I say, couldn't get near him, which was like a credit to him. And he never moaned, not as much as he does now, to be honest, but he never moaned back then. So yeah, I'll probably say him, but like I said, it would change every time you ask me, really.
Okay. There's so many more questions I want to ask you about him, but I haven't got the time here. Cheza888, what would you say is the highlight of your career?
Oh, again, yeah, I've had a few, some lows, a lot of lows, of course, a few relegations, but I've had some highs. I played UEFA Cup semi-final for Newcastle. We ended up getting beat to Marseille. A younger Didier Drogba absolutely come on and destroyed us.
Did he?
Yeah. FA Cup semi-final we played in. Crystal Palace, we had a fantastic run, got to the Carling Cup semi-final. I was a semi-final guy. I never really made the final, which was unfortunate. But I'd say we had a season at Crystal Palace where we was put in administration, was deducted 10 points, I believe, or 12 points. We got to the last game of the season, Sheffield Wednesday away. We needed a point to stay in the division. They need to beat us to stay in the division. So it was a real game, a lot of pressure on that game, and we ended up drawing 2-2. I scored the second goal, which kept Palace in the league, and it was a real catalyst to where they are now, I feel, because after that game, Steve Parish and the consortium bought the club, invested a lot, and now look at them, they're in the Premier League. So I'd say that was the highlight of my career.
So you played such a big part in Palace and where they are now. You should be at least on 1-2% of their turnover.
I should be, yeah, but I get on really well with Steve Parish, actually, and I often put that when I signed for Birmingham. I think about a month in, and I shouldn't say it, but I was ringing Steve Parish saying, "Please, can I come back? Like I've made a mistake," but no, I get on well, and I actually work down there, as you know. I work down there I've got this ambassadorial role down there, which is a real plus for me, given that I signed from Charlton as well, and the local rivals. I've really took to the fans there.
They're still at Copers Cut Road?
They are, yeah.
Training,
they are. Yeah, it's improved, by the way. And I went there about 6-7 weeks ago, and I interviewed Eze down there for TalkSport, and the car park's changed a little bit. I walked in and there was a Lamborghini sat right there, and then a Rolls Royce Jeep.
That
I was
was his
thinking, it weren't like that when we were there.
Okay, well, look, congratulations to you two there, Ches at 888 and Jim Moore as well. A £25 Amazon voucher will be coming your way. Okay, let's talk about some game previews, shall we? And first up, really good one, this one, Spurs-Chelsea. I'm in the minority here with you two, aren't I? Lots to talk about. Let's start with Chelsea and Thomas Tuchel. 2 games so far. What have you made of him and his team selections?
I think his team selections have been really interesting. I always like to see sort of when a new manager comes in, who he likes and who he doesn't. I think he's been quite fair, really. He's given a lot of people an opportunity, which I think is right. I think that probably goes to show as well what Frank Lampard was thinking, that there's a lot of players of similar ability at Chelsea, and sort of trying to work out the best 11 isn't easy, but I think he's also shown that he's somebody that will pick a team based on the opponents. When he's picking Alonso left wing back and saying it's because of his height and we want to defend set pieces, I think that is sort of that I suppose attention to detail, where Chelsea players are going to have to get used to the fact that, you know, you might not be playing for a reason like that. And, you know, I've heard some people say that, you know, Guardiola only sort of, his way is we impose our way on the opposition. But that's not true. If you read his books, he's obsessed by the opposition and picking players for the opposition. And I think Tuchel is the same, really. You want to impose yourself, but you also pick certain players based on what the opposition can do.
How much do you feel as well he's come in and perhaps thought, let's get everybody on side, especially the experienced ones, and then play it from there and see what they've got?
Absolutely, that's been his thought, his thinking in this process, and I think he looks really happy to be there. He's come out publicly saying that, you know, Christmas came after the actual day, and, you know, he unwrapped this gift. So I think he'll take to the supporters as well, the football club, the way he looks like he's loving being there, and it may be a front, and behind the scenes he knows what a fantastic manager he is. I think they went backwards a little bit in the Burnley game. I said this previously. They only had, I think, 710 passes as opposed to their near 900 against Wolves, I think it was. So no, in all seriousness, I think he's brought a real freshness to Chelsea, and it's a fresh start for everyone. We know what it's like when a new manager comes in. It's a fresh start, and, you know, he's been repaid. Alonso getting his goal is obviously repaying him.
Azpilicueta back in the side as well. Spurs, what's happened to Jose? Who wants to go here? And the team?
Yeah, obviously, shame on me for 8-9 weeks ago calling Tottenham to be title contenders.
Harry did it as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. They've had a real bad run. I think since the capitulation of West Ham, it seems that before that they were playing free attacking football, scoring a lot of goals, and since then he just wants the 1-0s, the 2-1s, not conceding many. And I mean, the Liverpool game angered me really as a Tottenham fan, because I think it was a real opportunity to go and have a real go at Liverpool. It's not obviously the full Liverpool team, as we know, and they were in a real bad run of form, and it just didn't work out that way. And now they've lost Harry Kane. It shows what an important player he is to then go and lose to Brighton. And, you know, I mean, Mark, does it show that I mean, Son maybe is not as influential without Harry Kane?
I mean, Son was really poor against Brighton. I don't know if maybe when Kane's not there, he has to try and sort of play closer maybe to another centre forward, because he wasn't getting any of the ball out wide. I mean, Vinicius had played terrible against Wickham, so I understood why he didn't pick him against Brighton. But
let's throw in Gareth Bale in this conversation as well.
Well, I mean, Bale was awful against Brighton.
Yeah.
You know, they were playing with 10 men essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't get past a jog, and that maybe he can't trust his body. I don't know. I'm assuming it's not through lack of trying. It's just maybe can't push himself where he wants to be.
I feel
it's a big one with Bale, isn't it?
I feel that Bale has been a disaster for Tottenham, and the biggest impact Bale made coming in was when he signed, and, you know, it seemed to lift the whole club and the players who are thinking, I want to play with Gareth Bale, but every time he's played, he's just not looked right. And I agree with him. I think maybe the injury, and I do feel sorry for him a little bit, because he can clearly see he's trying. He clearly loves the club as well, and it's just not working out. So what Jose Mourinho does with Gareth Bale, I really don't know.
It's going to be interesting. I did say when he signed, I didn't think he'd be a great impact. I think when you're out for that long and you haven't been playing football, to get your body back up to it, he's not old, 31, but still, he's the other side of 30. And as you say, I think the mind's there, although I think he's probably been blunted as well by what he's won and the pressures of the years as well. But physically, I'm not sure he's going to ever get back to the player he was. Okay, good game this, but what's your Betfred selection?
I think Tottenham need to start winning. They do, and if they don't, they'll struggle to make top 6. Never mind top 4. All that negativity about Tottenham, I'm still going to say Tottenham are going to win. Both teams to score.
There's a shock.
I like the way that Tuchel's team haven't conceded a shot on target yet, so I think that Spurs will play quite defensive and try and just do what they did in the Stamford Bridge game to some extent. I'm not sure it will work, and I'm going for Chelsea to win and under 3.5 goals.
Are you? I'm going to go in between here. I think Spurs are struggling going forward. Chelsea are good defensively at the moment, but I think Jose will make sure they don't concede that goal. I think it'll be an interesting tactical game, but I can see this being 0-0. We'll see. Okay, game preview 2. It's Saturday lunchtime, Aston Villa against Arsenal. And Mark, Arsenal had been in good form and then they lost to Wolves last night, although they were good in the first half, weren't they? How big a blow is that for Arteta in terms of what's been a crazy season? And you look at the league and anyone who goes on a run could still get into the Champions League places, but how big a blow was that for them?
Do you know, I'm not sure it was that big a blow. I mean, it will be because they've lost a game, but I think anybody that watched that game, you could argue the first half was the best Arsenal have played in a long time. You know, maybe back to when he was sort of getting it right in the FA Cup, like in the big games last season. I thought Arsenal were really good, and I don't think that we should look too down upon the fact that they eventually lost a game because it turned in one instant. And even when they went down to 9 men, it was still 2-1, and they were chucking balls in the box late on, and you just wondered if something might break. I mean, Saka just gets better every time you see him. Obviously defensively, they kept Manchester United out in the game before. So I wouldn't read too much into the defeat at all. I think they can take a lot of positives, albeit they're now missing 2 really key players with obviously Leno and Luis both suspended for the trip to Villa.
Some say Arsenal did the best piece of business in the transfer window, more getting players out than bringing players in. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we potentially could say it was the best transfer window for them. They were the club that really excelled in it because, like you said, his plan was to get rid of players and free up the wage bill. I think Mustafi, Socrates. He then let obviously Joe Willock and Maitland-Niles go, which just to develop them as it were. But the big ones, Ozil, obviously getting him off and bringing in Odegaard as well, which is a fantastic signing. I'd like to see more of him. I agree with Mark. I think before the sending off, it was the best football they've played this season. I was kind of pleased they lost, otherwise they'd have leapfrogged above Tottenham, which has been a nightmare. That would be a nightmare for myself and Spurs fans. But I think he's turning it around, Mikel Arteta. I think he had a bit of pressure on him, as it were, and he would do. He's missing Leno, as you said, and what can only describe last night as, I don't know, like a glitch in a computer game, how his arm flung out like that. I really don't know what he was thinking, but David Luiz will be a big miss for them as well. But yeah, I can see them getting something out of this game.
Yeah, it's good to see Arsenal sticking with the manager, giving them time. We'll move on. Villa play West Ham tonight. How big a win at Southampton was it? We'll come on to Southampton later after defeat at Burnley.
Yeah, football's a weird game, isn't it? Because they played better at Burnley than they did at Southampton. They got the opposite results in the 2 games. I mean, that happens, isn't it, in low-scoring sports? I thought they were lucky against Southampton. There was a definite handball that could easily have been a red card. I think some referees would have given a pen and a red card. I mean, Danny Ings was offside by sort of a black armband, wasn't he? So they were lucky in that game, but I felt like they've deserved the luck because they were really good at Burnley and should have won easily, and they managed to lose that game somehow. And Dean Smith's got Villa definitely heading in the right direction. They're one of probably the favourite teams to watch. You're gonna, they play football the way I like to watch it be played. Nicely balanced team. Threat up front, skillful in midfield, decent at the back, good goalkeeper. It's working well for them.
So this could be a really, really exciting game. I mean, how do you see it developing?
I think Aston Villa will look at it and feel this is a game that they could win. And previous seasons, you wouldn't say that about Arsenal, but I think they really feel they could go and attack Arsenal and perhaps go at the makeshift defence as it will be. I think Ollie Watkins will be important for this game because he's in good form as well. I think 8 goals this season in the Premier League, but obviously the main man is Jack Grealish, and he can create anything against any team. I think he's been fantastic, and it was good to see Ross Barkley get on the scoring sheet as well. So that will be a big plus for them.
Okay, Betfred selection for this one.
Yeah, again, like I said, Ollie Watkins will be important. I've got him scoring anytime.
Mark?
I'm going for over 2.5 goals. 4 of Arsenal's last 5 away in the Premier League have had at least 3 goals.
Okay, unlike Chelsea Spurs, I think there will be goals in this game, but I think it's going to end up being quite an entertaining score draw. So we'll see on that one. Okay, game preview 3. It's Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff. Newcastle against Southampton. Wow, so much to talk about here, isn't there? Let's start with Southampton. We'll come on to Newcastle in a sec. After what happened last night, just how would you describe what happened?
I mean, I think Darren said about a glitch in a computer game. I mean, Ralph Hasenhuttl will be, Groundhog Day. I mean, weirdly, people have said that the 9-0 against Leicester was what sparked them into life. So maybe they were playing.
It actually was Groundhog Day.
Yeah, well, it was Groundhog Day.
Second of February is Groundhog Day. Incredible.
And
it actually was Groundhog Day yesterday, 2nd of February. Not funny. Anyway.
No, so I wonder if they almost sort of played for it. Once it got to 4 or 5, they thought, hold on, if we lose 9, it'll kickstart us. I mean, they had a lot of injuries going into the game anyway. Very small squad. When somebody gets sent off in the first minute, you're away to Old Trafford, you're probably going to lose a game.
And there was no argument with that one either.
No, it was a really bad tackle. I mean, you still shouldn't lose 9-0, but I kind of, a lot of the goals were, there was a few in garbage time, weren't there, really, when it was really up, what they call in NFL sort of garbage time, that kind of it makes it a bit of a mockery of the game, I think, to some extent. I don't judge Hasenhuttl on that. I think their whole season now rests on the FA Cup, and good luck to them. He took that seriously, probably paid the price in the next game because they were tired against a rested Arsenal, but he's all in for the FA Cup, and I still think he's done a good job, and he'll continue to do a good job.
I remember one time I was at West Ham, and we were up against Beckham and Giggs and Keane, and we scored first, and we lost 7-1. It wasn't good, but then you do bounce back. But I mean, it's one thing to lose 9-0 once, and obviously it's not the same team, and there was a players sent off, there were youngsters who were starting, but you shouldn't be losing by 9, should you?
No, you shouldn't. Not like you said, twice in just over a year, and the same manager. I thought
different circumstances.
It was,
but
like we
still.
said, they were missing a lot of players. They weren't their full strength squad. They had the man sent off in 90 seconds, and rightly so, as we said. But you've got to change. You've got to find a way to not. And I did feel for Ralph Hasenhuttl yesterday. Every time it went on him, he was getting more and more angry, and it was just one of those games that everything Man United seemed to do worked, and even like we said, the few goals at the end didn't really need to happen. But fair play to them, they were clinical. But you can't lose 9. You can't lose 9 twice as well, and I think it's phenomenal. Do
you think it will hit them? Do you think they will be able to bounce back? It does feel different this time around, and the pressure's not on Hasenhuttl, obviously. Yeah. But how difficult is it to bounce back immediately, even for this game? Yeah,
it will be difficult, of course. I think the directors, the owners are probably thinking, I'm quite pleased with that because they had a fantastic time after the last 9-0. But you just, as a player, you can't accept that. And can you get over it that quick? You have to go again. And it's the beauty of football that you have game after game and you go out there. But I think the young lad getting sent off, albeit it was a disgraceful challenge, I did feel for him a little bit when they had the image of him walking down the side, and he knows he's made a real mistake there and let his team down. And if Ralph is a good manager, he'll get him on side, but that could have ended really nasty for McTominay. So thankfully it didn't.
I'm sure he'll bounce back. They play Newcastle. Where do we go with this? They lost at home to Palace last night. Great results at Everton Saturday, of course. Callum Wilson got 2 goals against Everton, and I was listening on the radio on talk to Danny Murphy saying that he felt that perhaps he saved Steve Bruce's job. How much pressure do you feel after Southampton losing 9-0? Is Steve Bruce coming into this? Because now the Newcastle fans will think even more, this is a team we should be at least getting 3 points from, if not beating heavily.
Yeah, I think Steve himself will know that there's a lot of pressure on him anyway. I think, unfortunately, I don't think many people wanted him in the job in the first place in terms of supporters. But, you know, he's doing okay. He's not come in, I think he hasn't taken his opportunity where he could really get the fans on side and play this free-flowing attacking football that all Newcastle fans want.
Do you think they're capable of doing that with the players they've got?
I think they are. I think they are, yeah. I think that the forward players that he leaves on the bench quite a lot, I think you could go out and just play 4-4. To bring Andy Carroll on, play him up top, big man, small man, although Callum Wilson's not a small guy. But, you know, when Andy Carroll comes on, I remember the Leicester game he came on, he made a real difference. And the Everton game was the Newcastle you want to see. They were brilliant, counter-attacking, the free-flowing football, as we say, and Callum Wilson scoring 2 brilliant goals as well, who looks a dream player for a manager, by the way, because when you're isolated up front on your own and you're not getting touches, and I mean, prior to Everton, he hadn't scored since the Fulham game, I think, where he won a dubious penalty himself. Normally you get a bit more vocal and you start showing your frustration, but he doesn't. He does a real good job for the team. Almiron as well, really good team player, needs to start popping up with more goals. I think yesterday was an opportunity against Crystal Palace, albeit my former club as well. Palace, brilliant to come back from 1 goal down and win, but that was an opportunity to get back-to-back victories. And like you said, coming against the team that's just lost 9-0, there's going to be pressure on.
Are you in the Steve Bruce camp or not?
Look, you never want to see a manager lose his job, absolutely not. But I feel perhaps the time, depending on the future, the next couple of games, perhaps the time comes that he does go. He won't leave, we know that. He's not going to give up. I said this the other day on the radio that maybe he should look to resign, but he won't. It's one of those.
Why should he look to resign?
I just feel that he's not. Before this was prior to the Everton game, he hadn't really shown enough for the supporters, having played up there. I know the supporters and what they want. I know they like this football. They don't. You hear the argument that what do they expect? They expect trophies every year. They don't expect trophies. They just expect a team that can excite them, that they can talk about with their mates. Albeit when you're allowed down the pub, you can talk about what happened in the game, and nothing had really happened. The Everton game, it changed for me. It looked that they were playing for the manager. They were playing this football that the fans like. They would have loved that, but then they didn't back it up with another victory at Crystal Palace, which was a shame, because I think there's a real opportunity for Steve Bruce, given that the owner's hated by the supporters. There's an opportunity for him to get them on side, and you know, if they continue like the Everton game, he can win them back over. But you need to back that up.
Okay. We could talk for hours about Newcastle,
Yeah.
So we'll move on. But what's your Betfred selection for this one?
I did this actually before last night, so I could say over 12.5 goals, but no, I've gone with over 3.5 goals for this game.
I think you're pretty safe there, aren't you?
I've gone for both teams to score as well. I think there has been a sort of move towards trying to get more players forward from Newcastle, which gives them more opportunities to score goals, but leaves them more vulnerable at the back. So both teams to score.
Okay, yeah, I have changed my opinion from last night. I sent an email quickly through last night. I thought Southampton would win. Now I think Newcastle have to take advantage. I think there's pressure like never before in terms of winning this particular game after what happened with Southampton. And I do think that they'll probably just do it. And I think Callum Wilson will get on the score sheet. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets the first goal. We shall see. Okay, good game on Saturday evening. It is Manchester United against Everton. Darren, what's the real United? The team that beat Southampton 9-0 last night, or the team that drew against Arsenal 0-0 that weren't particularly great, or the team that didn't seem to turn up against Sheffield United?
Well, it's somewhere in between, I feel. I think the Sheffield United performance was awful, and Sheffield United got the deserved victory, in my opinion. And then it seems to, you have a result like that and it's right, don't concede. And a lot of managers do that, absolutely. And then, you know, it was a bit of a bore draw really with Arsenal. And then last night, unbelievable. And you know what? It impressed me how clinical they were. They were ruthless as well. They didn't just sit on 4 or 5. They really went for the jugular and went to. I think they half had the record in their mind. And you know, fair play. They showed their professionalism. I think it's an inconsistent season, like it is for most. Yet they're still joint top of the league, albeit City have a few games in hand. They're still sitting joint top. So I'm looking forward to how the season ends for Man United. We all want to see them back up to the top because, you know, growing up as a kid, that's where they were, you know. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Shows how old I am. Growing up as a kid, Liverpool were there. But I know what you meant. For the Premier League, it's great for United to be there. True title contenders, and what did you think of them in the market? Again, they didn't do much, did they?
No, they didn't. I mean, Diallo came in from Atalanta. They'd bought him in the summer. He's somebody that probably won for the future, even though he's best part of 40 million. That he's still somebody that's barely played in Italy, so you can't expect him to come in and start playing Premier League straight away. I don't feel like they needed a great deal, sort of adding, like not in the January market. I think you could sort of look to the summer and say probably a top quality centre back alongside Maguire would definitely be needed. At some stage they'll probably need to sort of look for a Cavani replacement because they look a lot better, I think, up front when he's playing through the middle. But you know, you can't rely on him for the next 2-3 years to do that. So if Rashford, Martial and Greenwood are seen as the wide sort of attackers, they probably need to look there. But no, I thought it was sensible from them not to go mad in the transfer market. In terms of are they true title contenders, I mean, because they're joint top, you have to say yes, but I would still be very surprised if they won the league. I still think they're quite a bit behind, certainly Man City, yeah.
And what do we think about Everton right now? You know, great start to the season, had some dodgy results, but don't expect them to finish in the top 4, but you look at the table and it's still a possibility.
Yeah, the betting market and sort of professional gamblers absolutely hate Everton. Every single game they play, they are opposed. I mean, when Arsenal played them the other week, Arsenal were in terrible form. Arsenal were favourites to beat Everton with bookmakers because there's a lot of their stats, their sort of expected goals and their shot stats are not where you'd expect a team where they are in the table to be. So this regression was kind of spotted, I think, from sort of the professional gamblers some time ago, and I think it may continue. I haven't seen much in recent weeks to suggest that Everton are sort of up to the standard of where their league table position is, if that makes sense.
That's, yeah. So Betfred selection for this one.
I'm going to go for Manchester United to win, but a draw at half-time. United, they weren't slow starters against Southampton, but traditionally they are. And so, yeah, them to eventually win, but after a draw at half-time.
Darren?
I've almost gone to say I've gone Man U to win half-time and full-time.
Okay. I've gone both teams to score. I think Everton will nick one, but whether it's coming from behind or not, I think United will go on and win this game. Okay, game preview 5, Sunday lunchtime kickoff. It is Wolves against Leicester, and we don't know the Fulham-Leicester result as we speak. But Leicester, you know, they have had a good season so far. How surprised were you then with their loss to Leeds?
Well, you can't be surprised with anything when Leeds are involved. I think they are the team that have really shocked everyone. You know, they get turned over, Leicester 4-1, Palace 4-1, but then they can turn teams over like they did. So you can't really be shocked. But it's been a great season so far for Leicester, and they're the team that are quietly going about their business prior to the Leeds game, and they were sneaking up that league, and you know they were really having a push. And it would be a bigger achievement for me if they got anywhere near, not anywhere near, if they won the title this year than when they actually done it. Because
really,
I think so, yeah. Because the quality in the league this year compared to the year they won it is improved. Obviously, City coming through, Liverpool coming through. So, but I don't think they will. But top 4 is real contention for them.
Yeah, the timing was right a few years back, wasn't it? The big boys are in a lot better form at the moment, a lot better teams. Jamie Vardy out as a big blow. Let's talk about that he might be back for the weekend. One, how big a boost is that? And also, what about Wilf Ndidi being out as well?
Yeah, and also Fofana's been struggling as well. I mean, that could be like the spine of their team. It's hard to know, isn't it, at the moment? I think Ndidi, when they went backwards at the end of last season and Ndidi was out, and it might have been coincidence, but doesn't feel like it. He's a really important player for them, just holding the team together. They've got a lot of players that like to go forward, but they haven't got that many that can just sit and sort of, look after things while the rest of them go forward. And they haven't got another player like Vardy. There aren't that many players like Vardy around, so it's really difficult to replace him. Tottenham have got a similar thing with Harry Kane. How do you replace him? And it has to be a different way. Iheanacho has had, I think, enough opportunities now to show that he's probably just not at the required standard. Ayoze Perez is a very sort of honest and hard-working player, but he's not at that standard. I would like to see Harvey Barnes have a go up front. It has been suggested. Brendan Rodgers played it down and said he can't play there. It's a completely different role. It feels like he's got some similarities to Vardy, and it might be something that they could at least look at. But if those players are out, it's a big blow. If they're back, it's a really big plus.
Yeah. We talked about perhaps Arsenal losing last night at Wolves wouldn't be a big blow for them. How important was it for Wolves to win? That was much needed,
It was a massive win, huge. And you could see the way that Nuno celebrated it, and the players did. And the panic when they were 2-1 up, down to 9 men, they started to get a little bit concerned, didn't they, right at the end? What I would say is I thought the first half they were absolutely awful.
Yeah.
As bad as what they've been in a lot of their games, if not worse. They were lucky. I mean, how they went in 1-1 and then playing against 10 men, I'll never know. It could have been 3 or 4.
What do you put that down to? Because they've been 7th in the 2 seasons they've been in the Premier League. Is it simply Raul Jimenez or the change of system as well?
Yes, both of them comes into play. I think that the amount of games they've had over the last couple of years as well has been phenomenal, more than anyone. So I think tiredness and has really caught up with them. Raul Jimenez, big loss. It'd be a loss to anyone, as Harry Kane and Jamie Vardy is. And it seems to be that has been the downturn of their form. But last night was fantastic. Second half was brilliant. And it was the old Wolves, the free-flowing Wolves that we all know. And I think Moutinho's goal was incredible. It was a fantastic strike. And, they could have had another one. It was a good save from Renarsson, I think, who come on. But like we said, first half, they could have been out of sight, though, Arsenal. It could have been 3 or 4-0 already. So they need to build on the second half performance, and if they do that, then they'll be looking up rather than down.
They'll be hoping Leicester go down to 9 men again. Betfred selection here then.
I think I've gone James Maddison to score first. I think he's going to be the important player for Leicester.
I'm going to talk about him a little bit later.
I'm going for a draw. I don't like the fact that I still don't think Wolves are in good form, but Leicester, if they haven't got those sort of big players available, it might just sort of curtail their ambitions as much as anything else.
Yeah, I think Wolves will be lifted from last night, but if Jamie Vardy's fit, I can see Leicester defending well, playing that typical away counter and nicking this, maybe even by the odd goal, because Wolves games don't always involve a lot of goals. Okay, game preview 6. It is a Sunday afternoon, and what a game it is. Liverpool against Manchester City. How significant is this game, do you feel? I mean, it's still early in the season as such. How significant in terms of title race?
Feels like a really big game. If Liverpool lose, you don't see them. But with sort of what they've got available, I don't see them catching City. As long as if they don't lose the game, then it's still up for grabs. And if Liverpool win, I don't think it will suddenly knock Man City completely off course either. So it feels like the kind of game where Liverpool can't lose it as much as anything else. But obviously going to be a really big game.
United are level on points as we speak, with City at the top. But does it feel that the big two are starting to click into gear? And City already are, of course, with the great run that they're on at the moment. But normal service is being resumed.
It feels that way. I think clubs, Man United, for instance, Leicester, they'll want it. They'll want everyone to keep talking about Man City and Liverpool, and like we said about Leicester, quietly go about their business. I think it's a much bigger game for Liverpool, as Mark said. If Liverpool lose, I don't think there's any way back in, albeit it's so early. I think Man City look unstoppable at the minute. I think eight consecutive Prem wins at the moment.
12 in all comps.
I mean, that's fantastic. After people were writing them off to start with. There was a few people writing them off, but you always knew it would be a matter of time before they clicked. And albeit without Aguero as well, by the way, and they've come through this run, and it's not as big for Liverpool, for Man City, obviously, as we said. for a neutral in terms of that, I hope Liverpool do win, because then it brings everyone back into play a little bit more for the next few weeks. But I do think the league this season's Man City's to lose.
So you do think if Liverpool lose, that's it?
I think it's it anyway. I think Man City are looking like title contenders already, no matter what game they play in. I think they're phenomenal, the run they've been on. Everyone seems to be having blips. They don't. They may do, but you just can't see it at the moment. So I think Man City is their title this season, barring any miracle from anyone else.
Yeah, anyone who finishes above City, definitely going to win it. Does Jurgen Klopp play one or none of his centre-backs? And have you spoken to him? What's his plan? How do you beat a City side that, as we said, have won 8 straight league wins and 12 in all competitions?
I think Henderson's done well at centre-back, really, considering that you wouldn't have sort of guessed that he could play there. Fabinho, you sort of would have imagined could, but Henderson, I think against hard games against Tottenham and West Ham, looked like he could really sort of just play in that position. I suppose a lot will depend on whether Fabinho's sort of fit and available. Would I play? Kabak would probably be the one ahead of Davis, I think, if you wanted to play one. Schalke have had a really bad season, but this time last year he was worth a lot more money. Because Schalke have had such a bad season, his value has dropped considerably. He's quite a rash and sort of aggressive front foot defender. So I'd probably say of the two, I think he'd be more likely to start. Not a nice start, is it, against Man City, because the runs come from everywhere and you've got to be so concentrated. But Aguero's not there, or he certainly, we don't expect him to be. He's not going to be fully fit. So there's an opportunity, I think, for Liverpool to contain City.
Okay, Betfred selection here.
I think it might be a bit of a boring game. I'm going to go under 2.5 goals. So many of the big games this season have been low scoring. I think it's 11 of the all big 6 games have been under 2.5. And no De Bruyne, Aguero's not fully fit. Liverpool probably having to keep one eye on making sure their defence is tight. I think this might be a bit of a drab draw.
Throughout the talent that both sides have, it is one of those where City would probably take the draw, and Liverpool certainly don't want to lose, do they?
They don't.
What's your selection here?
Like we said, Liverpool can't lose. If they lose, then it's all but over. I agree. You're hoping for a fantastic game, but it never normally seems to be the case when these are built up so much. But I'm going to sit on the fence and say score draw.
Yeah, no, I'm the same, actually. I think if Liverpool had even one fit centre-back with Fabinho in there and then Henderson in midfield, I'd still fancy them to get something, probably even a win, with it being at home and there's no fans. But yeah, I think it's going to be very difficult. I think they've got to protect the back four, haven't they? And City will take a draw. Liverpool cannot afford to lose. Totally agree there. I'm going for a low score draw there as well. Okay, let's get to the best fantasy football picks this weekend, where each of us pick a player we think will star. Who have you gone for?
I've gone for Callum Wilson this week. I think he got on the score sheet twice against Everton. He's a real, like we spoke about, manager's dream. I think he has aspirations of getting back in England squad. Of course he would. He's already got 10 goals in a team that don't really create much.
Do you think he should be in there?
Not at the moment. I don't know. I think you're looking at the tiers of forwards. You've got Harry Kane, Ings, Calvert-Lewin, probably the top 3. Then you've got whoever else. So he's in the shout. Ollie Watkins maybe is in the shout as well. He'll be in that group that are really looking to make a final push for a chance of going. And I think he obviously got an assist again last night. Played well, albeit they didn't win. So I think
coming up against Southampton.
He'll be looking at that as well, being an ex-Bournemouth man. You know, or there'll be no fans in the stadium giving him abuse and stick. But you know, I think he'll start this week. I expect maybe 1, maybe 2 goals.
It's a good shout. Mark?
Darren's already mentioned him, but it's Will Zaha, just because Palace have got a nice run of fixtures coming up. And Leeds is not an easy game, but they are wide open defensively, and so there's opportunities on the counter there. And then after that, it's like Burnley. They've got Brighton. Zaha loves playing against Brighton and Fulham. So they've got a nice little run of fixtures. So maybe stock up on a few Palace players.
Okay, chance to be really safe as well, isn't it, for Crystal Palace? I said him last week, actually, and he made an assist. And you've mentioned him already. I think James Maddison can dominate this game. I really do. I think there's some very good players on both sides, but I think that he can grab the game by the scruff of the neck and, if not score a goal, then make an assist and be MOM. I think he's someone who perhaps is just in that second tier of players who want to get into the England team.
Would you take him?
I'd take him. I'd take him. I don't know if I'd start him. I wouldn't start him. And I definitely think Jack Grealish has gone ahead of him. But I think he's starting after what was a slow start to the season. I think he can do really well here. So James Maddison is my shout. Okay, final one here, team treble. Each of us picks a team that we think will win and give a reason why.
Well, again, I've done this before last night, so I didn't change my mind. I think Leicester. My choice will be Leicester away at Wolves. Wolves obviously picked up a fantastic result. So I think they need to bounce back from their disappointing result, and I think they will away at Wolves.
I'm going to go to Spain. Can't go to Spain.
Can
but
we? That would be great,
Yeah,
wouldn't it?
Sevilla. I was here to go to
Southern
Seville.
Spain. Oh,
Yeah, I'd love to
imagine
go
that
to
now.
Seville right now, with the hottest city in Europe. It did rain the first time I went there, but yeah, it did. Yeah, but Sevilla to beat Getafe in La Liga at the weekend. Sevilla really tight defensively. Only conceded 16 goals, so they only need one usually to win games. And Getafe are just levelling out after a couple of really good years. At the moment, they're in 12th position. They've lost every time they've played against a team above them away from home in La Liga this season, and they've not even been to Barcelona or Real Madrid. So when they're upped in class away from home, they usually lose.
Okay, I've gone for West Ham. Great season so far. Really poor against Liverpool, really disappointed. Although I personally think Liverpool were not given enough credit, or the Liverpool midfield were not given enough credit. I thought Thiago was absolutely superb. I could talk for hours about him, but I just think West Ham are in a good place. They're able to put that game to one side, bounce back, and I think they'll do a job on Fulham as well. So I've gone for West Ham. We'll see on that one. And that's it. Dale, you enjoyed it?
Really have, yeah.
Yeah.
Really
What are you
have.
up to this weekend? Mark's off to Seville.
Yeah, I'm doing the EFL show on TalkSport on Friday, and then I've got back to Darren Bent's boot room on Sunday, which is a good laugh.
Brilliant. We'll send Benty my best, won't you? And Mark, as ever, thank you. Okay, that's it. We'll be back next week to see how Darren's predictions have performed, and we'll be looking ahead to the weekend as well. Of course, from here, everyone at Betfred and also the Racing Post, if you do gamble, please gamble responsibly.